Hi, Keith. Thanks for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Keith Yon. I'm a CIO for a small company here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was recently one of the contestants in the Inspiration for Prosperity Seat contest. I've just been an avid space follower since childhood. Went to space camp when I was 14 back in 1986. I'm not sure if it's amazing that Space Camp existed back then, but yeah, I went back in 1986. But yeah, I've just been an avid space follower since childhood. I currently have an observatory that I built in my backyard. So I have a 10-inch Meade telescope that I use to observe the night sky. Love everything space.
December of 1985 was my first visit to Kennedy Space Center, and we got to see the Challenger on the launch pad. And then,
Oh,
of
wow.
course, in 1986 January is when the disaster happened. And I guess you went to space
Yep.
camp that summer.
Yes. Yeah, that was a tough year. I remember exactly when the Challenger exploded. I was actually visiting my aunt in Helen, Georgia, and I can remember hearing it come over the radio. And yeah, that ruined that trip for me. The whole space shuttle Challenger explosion was kind of a damper on that entire trip. So it's amazing how things like that happen, and you can remember exactly where you were when you heard the news.
It's kind of amazing how, a teacher in space trying to create like this big public interest, and it was being live broadcast on TV. I guess streaming
Yep.
wouldn't be the right word for then, but broadcast. And you had like groups of students. I mean, it happened during the day. Lots
Yeah.
of gyms filled with students, and this event that went from let's inspire a generation of getting people into space turned out actually to be a horror film, and ended up, I think,
Yeah.
doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, that was kind of the first attempt at, opening space for more people. Not necessarily everyone, but I would say that was the first attempt at saying, yeah, we can send people other than just astronauts to space. And unfortunately, because of that accident, that kind of put a kibosh on that idea again for another couple of decades, until just recently now, where that whole idea has come back up again.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw as being one of the drivers of the Inspiration 4 mission, this idea of taking regular people, training them to be astronauts and sending them on a mission in space. But yet, as I'm watching, I mean, I actually went down to Cape Canaveral to watch the Inspiration 4 launch. It was like a last minute trip. That
Yeah.
Tuesday at noon, I'm like, hey, I think I'll go. I was on a plane like in the next 3 hours and flew from Houston uh,
Nice.
to there, and it was really fantastic. Got to hang out with some of the Prosperity Seat contestants as well. Did you go to Florida for the launch?
Yes, I was there. Yeah, I brought
Oh,
my daughter.
that is awesome. But I did did any thoughts about the Challenger like in the back of your mind as you're like kind of watching this? Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, most definitely. I mean, and I got to imagine it was in the same thing in everyone's mind, because again, same sort of thing. I mean, if this doesn't go right, it's going to be, it's going to shut down this whole idea of space for everyone again for another decade or longer. So yeah, I think a lot was riding on that, more so than any of the other SpaceX missions or anything that they've done, or even when the Soyuz take millionaires up to space, or Bezos does his thing. I think this mission was more critical to that idea than any of the others.
yeah,
Because if
and
something had gone wrong with this one, then it would have been bad across the board.
it seems that it not only went right, but I would even say it seemed to have went perfectly.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that statement very much so. Yeah.
And so it seems like we've kind of set the stage to have more of these. I mean, I think there's some hints.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, how soon we'll see that. I mean, I'd like to think that, in a month I'll be able to, go online and just book my trip to, to low Earth orbit, spending 3 days, and it'll only cost me $1,000 or something like that. But I have a feeling we're still probably better part of a decade away from really getting to a, more people being able to make that trip, the people that want to. Not, I think still for the next, until, I guess my thought is until you have something like Starship that can fit 50, 100 people at a time, these Bezos and Branson and stuff like that can only take 4 people or 6 people at a time, just aren't going to do enough to drive the price down quickly. It's not until you get to, oh, we can send 50 people or 100 people on a Starship, take them up there for 12 hours, bring them back, turn it around, and take them up, take another group up tomorrow. That's the only way I think you're going to see the prices get down to a reasonable area.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and it seems like that's in Elon's plans, because he's talking about
Correct.
using the Starship as many times as 3 times per day.
Yeah.
And he's talking about building a factory, or the factory that he currently has in Brownsville, building
Yep.
like 2 per week.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I'm all for it. But yeah, a lot of the other ones like the Bezos, the Virgin Galactic, and Blue Origin, I mean, they're great, they're novel. I mean, but for $450,000 and you're only taking 4 people or 6 people at a time, I just don't ever see that, getting us to a point where the average Joe can, hop on a spaceship just like they can an airliner right now. I don't think you get that until you get to a point where you have 50 to 100 people or more, if you can, on a single flight.
Exactly. And I mean, also the point-to-point travel. I think SpaceX has also talked about using Starship,
Yeah.
go from Arkansas to New Zealand in 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm not sure if I see that one, how that one's going to work very well. I mean, it seems like that'd be a high cost just to go a short distance, but I don't know. Hey, it never put anything past Elon. He sets his mind to something. You better believe he's gonna make it happen.
yeah, I mean, but Arkansas to New Zealand right now, I think takes like what, 24-hour flight?
Oh, probably, at least, I would say. I mean, it's probably 4 to 5 hours, just 5 hours just to get to like the West Coast. So then to get to New Zealand, yeah, it's got to be at least 18 hours, if not, 24.
And even if you spent the 4 times the ticket price to get first class, you
Yeah.
still get there at the same time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You get there, a fraction of a second quicker.
Oh,
You're
with
in
the
front of the
unloading?
plane, so you're in front of the plane, so you're a fraction of a second earlier when you hit the land.
But is that offset by the being the first on board?
True. Very true. Very true. Yep.
It's like let's see, FIFO, or no, first in, first out.
First out. Yep.
Yeah,
FIFO. Mm-hmm.
FIFO. Yeah.
Nice.
So when did you find out that NASA was planning to send astronauts to the moon in 2024?
Well, I mean, honestly, I've been kind of following it, well, since the space shuttle. I mean, they've been talking about Artemis and the SLS and all that kind of stuff since they discontinued the space shuttle. Which, again, I will flat out say that was, in my opinion, the saddest day in the entire country. I mean, to me, we've had nothing better than the space shuttle, and I'm not sure that I believe that Artemis is going to be anything better than the space shuttle. To me, that was the epitome of space travel. But I digress. So yeah, I mean, I've been following the SLS and Artemis and stuff ever since they announced the shuttles decommissioned. Of course, it just kept getting delayed, and so. But it wasn't until I guess a couple of years ago that I had heard that they were shooting for 2024 to be back on the moon. And of course, now with some of the delays, I'm not sure how likely the 2024 is going to be, but fingers crossed that we're still going to make that. But with the spacesuit delays and I guess Starliner still being an issue, and then all the lawsuits with Blue Origin and SpaceX. So a lot of things seem to be stacked against it, but let's hope that it all works out and we can still make it by the 2024.
Yeah, and indeed, it does seem very unlikely. I'm hoping that we at least go around the moon by 2024. That would be
Yeah,
still still satisfactory, I think.
yeah. At least you're getting to the moon would be better than, well, we still haven't even launched anything into orbit yet for this SLS. Or for the moon missions, come 2024, and we're still just sitting on the launch pad. That'll be a sad day.
Now, Elon has mentioned in passing a few comments about the space shuttle, and what he saw as being one of the challenges with the program was that every single space shuttle launch had people on it, so they weren't able to really make any fundamental design changes since it would put those people at risk. And so from the initial
Correct.
flights, it was pretty much static, whereas Starship is going to have, kind of like your launch satellite version as well as your send
Yeah.
people version, so can do a lot more experimentation and innovation.
Yeah, it seems like they have, I mean, last it seems like they'd have 2 or 3 different versions. I mean, you'd have the satellite launching type, the crew carrying type, as also then you have the refueling, the ones that are just for refueling the other starships in orbit. So yeah, it looks like they'll have multiple different versions or iterations of it that they can test with before putting it on ones that would affect crew.
Yeah, and with that refueling one, I think for every trip to the moon surface, they're talking about what, 15 tanker flights or something crazy like
Yeah,
that.
I was thinking it was like 11
Oh,
or
it's
something. But yeah,
11.
it's in the double digits. I know it's in the double digits.
That's
Yeah,
a lot of opportunity for innovation.
yeah, yeah. I would think so. Surely there's got to be a better way to do that, but I'm sure that's just the best they could come up with immediately. I'm sure they'll come up with some better way to do that down the road.
Yeah, I mean, having some type of in-orbit refueling that's being fueled up by other sources. I'm not sure what those would be. I'm just like thinking, where do you get methane from? In terms of, you need like carbon dioxide and hydrogen.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know if that's one you can find anywhere. Even once you have a place on the moon, if you get to the point where you can actually refuel at the moon, I know you can get the liquid oxygen, you can make the liquid oxygen and stuff like that there, but I don't know if you can get the methane from the moon itself.
The interesting thing is, on the space station, in order to take the carbon dioxide out of the air, their machine actually reacts it with hydrogen to produce methane, which then just gets vented
Okay.
out. So perhaps your people are the source of the methane.
Methane, yeah. We tend to be a pretty good source of methane. Some
But
ways better than others.
indeed. Well, would it surprise you that whenever I talk to non-space people, like at Starbucks and at the mall and on the trains and airplanes, that type of thing, that about 80% of them have no idea we're sending people to the moon?
It honestly would not surprise me. I mean, I was amazed even with the Inspiration4 thing, obviously being in the space community and, being a space geek and stuff. I couldn't believe when pretty much nobody that I know around here had ever even heard of this whole Inspiration4 thing. I mean, there are still people that ask me about my shirt and my jacket and things like that, that they're like, what is Inspiration4? I mean, even by now, I would have thought most people would have at least have heard something about it. It's been in the news. It's been on Today's Show. It's been on, Good Morning America. You would think most people would hear about it, but I'm still surprised by the number of people that, just haven't heard. And the same goes for the moon. I would assume it's the same way. Unfortunately, again, I'm being a stargazer, somebody who uses a telescope to look up. I'm also amazed by the number of people that just don't ever look up. I mean, honestly, most people are just, that all they see is what's in front of them. They never take the time to just sit back and admire, the night sky, which to me is the most amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting how humanity has been blessed with night skies that are dark and vibrant with lights and
Mhm.
lots of interesting things that kind of stimulates the thought of what's out there and what's going on and that type of thing. And when we finally got into the technological age to do something about it, we've lost the vision or
Yeah.
the source of the vision.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of, I mean, in most people where they live, I mean, if you're lucky, you can look up and see the brightest of stars, just because of all the light pollution and stuff like that. So, that could be a big part of it too. Is, oh, I did look up, but it was just black. There's nothing there. Whereas I live out in the country in the middle of Arkansas, so my skies are a little bit darker. So I tend to have a little bit better view of the skies.
It would be interesting to see how the support and opposition to space travel breaks down from country to city, like
Yeah.
places where there are dark skies versus where there's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever actually done any kind of study like that, but yeah, I would imagine that, because yeah, I mean, I guess I got to imagine most people in the cities where you couldn't see a star don't even ever think to look up and wouldn't even have any concerns about whether or not Elon Musk's Starlink satellites are going to be filling the skies and causing all kinds of issues for astronomers and stuff. What do they care? They can't see the sky anyhow. So
Well, at dusk and dawn, you can really see a lot of satellites.
yeah,
Not Starlink, I don't think, but lots of other satellites, and um, that's kind of really fascinating too. You're like, wow, there's like constant Sputnik moments.
oh yeah, yeah. There's thousands of them up there, and people don't realize that. Yeah. See that thing just streaking across the sky? That's a satellite. Oh, there goes another one. Oh, there goes another one. Yeah, it's amazing how many we have up there at this point. At some point, especially when Starlink gets done and they have their whatever 40,000 satellites that they want to have up there, and then I think Amazon has one that they're trying to do the same basic thing with, and I think there's another company called OneWeb that's doing the same thing. At some point, we're going to basically have to start, finding the holes through which we can look or send spaceships up. Hold on, ready, go. Oh, there we go. We made it through the hole. Yeah. So yeah, it's getting pretty ridiculous how much we have up there floating around us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concerns that we eventually might be putting a cloud around the Earth that we won't be able to
Yep.
get through.
Yep. Yeah. You're supposed to build the Dyson sphere around the sun, not around your own planet.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. If you can't launch anything and you're only able to do things in orbit based upon remote manufacturing and sending stuff to Earth from other places, that could be
Yeah.
kind of interesting
Yeah.
situation.
I'm interested. I know one of the things I've seen for Starship too is they've talked about having a garbage chomping starship or whatever that would go up and just basically dredge, areas of space to get rid of all the debris and stuff that's up there. Because that's definitely something that needs to happen as well. I mean, we have so much debris that we've left behind. What was it? I think it was a month or two ago. I saw where they were tracking a new NEO, new near Earth object that turned out to be, I guess it was the second stage or whatever from one of the Apollo missions that they just finally found, and it's still orbiting. It's still coming around. It's like, wow, that thing's still out there. And then plus we threw a Tesla up there, and that's just more debris that we have to worry about down the road somewhere.
Yeah, the Tesla was so fast it reached escape velocity.
Yep, yep, yep. With the Starman inside of it.
And indeed. Um, so this lack of public awareness, do you think it puts the program at risk, or is it just just to be expected?
I think it really does. I mean, I think anytime you're talking about government funded space missions, public awareness is critical. I mean, honestly, I mean, you go back to the Apollo missions, we had, 20, 22, 23 of them planned, but by the time we got to 17, there was just not enough interest in the public anymore that they just ended up canceling. They didn't get the funding. They just canceled the rest of the missions. So at this point, SLS is what, a decade behind, something along that lines, $7 trillion or billion, whatever, billions of dollars over budget. Yeah, I'm afraid that anytime NASA gets involved with it, I mean, I love NASA, nothing against that, NASA, we wouldn't be where we are without NASA. But unfortunately, since NASA is government funded, it's really tough for them to stick with a mission. Yeah, they want it. They want to see it. Let's go to the moon. They want to see us put a permanent base on the moon. They want to see all this stuff. But unless the public's behind it and Congress is behind it, and it's not going to happen unless they can get that funding. Whereas if you have private companies like SpaceX or whatever doing it, they don't worry about the funding. They're not worried about whether or not Congress, decided to cut their budget or not. So I think long term, I think private companies are the way to go for things like Moon, Mars, and NASA itself should be more of a regulatory body. Putting down the regulations for people like SpaceX and Blue Origin and stuff to follow. Let NASA continue exploration through remote probes and rovers and stuff, which they do awesome. Nobody better than NASA at exploration and rovers and things of that nature. But the manned missions, I think we need to leave to the private companies, to the private sector.
And I mean, I think we're seeing more of that. I mean, it'd be an interesting toss-up to see, does Dear Moon happen before or after Artemis 2?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Dear Moon is still, I think it's pretty optimistic to think that 2023 that they'll actually do that. I don't know that I see that one happening. 2024, maybe. 2025, more likely, probably. I mean, they haven't even launched a single Starship yet at this point. So, and I would think before they let anybody fly on one, you'd have to have at least a dozen, successful test flights without people on them. And I just don't know that I see that happening. I could be wrong. I mean, again, Elon Musk, the Crew Dragon was falling behind, and Elon Musk got in on that, got involved and brought it back, and then quickly got it up and running, and now they're flying them. That's the only way we get to the space station pretty much now is through SpaceX. So
yeah, in fact, I just read yesterday that some astronauts that were slated to go on Starliner have been shifted over to SpaceX.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Some of they were supposed to be on the Starliner 2 or whatever, or Starliner 1. Now they're shifted to the Crew 5 or whatever.
And it's amazing how much that changed so quickly. I remember 2 years ago, NASA negotiating with Boeing to keep Starliner up there on orbit longer. To have that first test mission be like an operational mission to kind of fill a gap with Soyuz flights.
Yep.
And we still have yet to see a Starliner at station.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, based on the fact that they're moving people that are supposed to be on Starliners to Crew 5 and Crew, my guess is that we won't see a Starliner mission before Crew 6 even. So, and we're just now launching Crew 3 goes the end of this month. So you got to think that's at least a year and a half before they expect that they'll even be able to do anything with Starliner crewed missions anyhow. So.
Yeah. Where do you see humanity going, say 500 years? How far do you think we would have gotten?
That's a good question. And honestly, I wish I could find out. I would love to cryogenically freeze myself or whatever and wake up in 500 years and see how far we've made it. However, I mean, I think Earth and obviously the moon and Mars will be a definite. I don't think that'll happen in my lifetime. Moon, maybe. Mars, I don't know. I'm 50, so I don't know if I'll see that fully in my lifetime. Beyond that, yeah, I mean, I would like to think that at some point we'll have, you know, generational ships, I guess is what you would call them, where, you know, people are born and live on these huge star cruisers that will travel out into the galaxy or into the universe itself. I mean, I believe what Musk says, and us being a multiplanetary species, because yeah, eventually something's going to happen to the Earth. You know, an asteroid, nuclear war. You know, we're perfectly capable of destroying it ourselves. We don't even need an asteroid to do it for us. But I mean, beyond that, you know, in billions of years, our sun's going to be the problem. So, and that won't even matter for multiplanetary here and the moon and Mars, because all three of them will be, you know, the Earth is most likely going to be gone. Mars will be too close to the sun at that point then to even support life. So at that point, you know, if we aren't multi-galaxy, not just multiplanetary, we're still going to be in trouble. So I would like to think in 500 years that we would hopefully be traveling amongst the stars, you know, trying to reach out towards distant galaxies, distant star systems. But again, we'll see. Well, I won't see. Somebody will see. Hopefully somebody will send something back from the future telling us, yep, we did it.
Well, you know, rejuvenation technology is definitely something that's been advancing. I
Yeah,
mean, the idea of you and I living for hundreds of years, I don't think is beyond the realm of possibilities.
yeah, that is true. I, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things. I would love to be around in 100 years to see where we are as far as the moon, the Mars, space travel, things of that nature. But do I want to live another 100 years? I don't know. I think I like the idea of just cryogenically being, you know, and then just wake me up so I can see where we're at periodically. Because, you know, if I, you know, if I live to be 200, what's my retirement age at that point? I mean, you know, am I going to have to work till I'm 150 now instead of 75? I don't know. There may be a double-edged sword to have longer lifespan.
Yeah, but should we ever retire? I mean, why not have a vocation that we're able to balance kind of like our lives and, you know, I mean, there's this concept of dying with your boots on type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you have a job that you love, then yeah, that's. I love computer work, so I do what I enjoy doing. So it's not that bad. But at some point, I'd also like to retire and just be able to travel and do whatever I want, and not have to clock in 9 to 5 every day. So
Yeah, I think this COVID situation and the Great Resignation and a whole bunch of other factors are really bringing about some changes to the regular work thing. I know at my
mhm.
company, we have some groups that are experimenting with 410s, you
Oh
know,
wow, yeah.
and so you have those things. But I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to add or ask me or anything like that?
I don't. I'm not really. Like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, it was pleasant to just sit down and chat. I don't. Again, living in Arkansas, we're not a huge spacefaring state, so I don't have many people around here that I get a chance to chat and discuss these type of topics with. So it was enjoyable to actually just sit down and discuss.
Well, it was a pleasure for me as well. And
Good.
maybe we should start a Space Society chapter there in Arkansas.
There you go. That would be nice. We'd be the only members, but yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think you'd be surprised. The
Yeah, it
problem is
probably would be.
it's
Yeah, they're just
about
so spread out that you never meet them is usually the issue.
they blend in.
Yep, yep.
Well, you have a good rest of your day then, and I look forward to staying in touch online.
Great. I appreciate it. You have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.